I used to believe that love and dedication to family were sacred, that if I gave enough, one day I would be understood and appreciated. For nearly a decade, I lived like a shadow in my parents' home, quietly repairing every broken tile, covering every overdue bill, patching up the cracks in a life they no longer had the energy or desire to fix. I lost count of how many chances I turned down, how many dreams I quietly buried, or how many sleepless nights I spent rushing my mother to the ER. All because I thought, I'm Zara, the daughter, and that's what daughters are supposed to do. I never asked for rewards. I never expected money or praise. All I hoped for was one simple acknowledgement. You've worked so hard, thank you. But the day I accidentally opened that old folder and found a will where my name was completely absent, that was the day my heart went still. They had left everything to my younger sister, Mia, the one who never paid a single bill, who lived recklessly, changing jobs like outfits, always cushioned by someone else's efforts. And me? I wasn't even mentioned. Just one cold, vague sentence. We love both our daughters. I read that line again and again, hoping I had misunderstood. But the more I read, the clearer it became. In their eyes, I was the one who always had it together, so I didn't need anything. All my sacrifices, my years of holding the house together brick by brick, now felt like a one-sided memory, wiped out by a few lifeless words on a page. I used to believe that love, if strong enough, could change hearts. But I learned that sometimes devotion doesn't make people value you more. It just makes them used to you always being there, always carrying the weight, never saying no. I wasn't angry when I walked away from that house. I just felt empty. A kind of cold, aching emptiness deeper than any winter I had ever known. Because for the first time, I saw the truth. People can take everything you give and still turn their backs once you have nothing left to offer. It wasn't just betrayal. It was the complete erasure of who I was, as if Zara had never existed through those hard years. I didn't leave because I couldn't help anymore. I left because I realized that if I didn't step away, no one would ever change. They would keep living like Zara would always be there to clean up the mess. But I'm not in that role anymore. I'm no longer the pillar daughter. I'm no longer the silent fixer holding everything together while being written out of the story. For the first time in my life, I chose to live for myself. And I have no regrets. I will never forget that afternoon. The moment I stood in the living room of the house I once called my home, gripping the will in my hands, my heart pounding. In front of me was my mother, the same woman who once taught me how to tie my hair, who made ginger tea for me whenever I had a cough. Now, she avoided my eyes, visibly uncomfortable. Zara, it's nothing, honey. I just wanted your sister to feel more secure. I cut her off. My voice wasn't loud, but it was so cold I barely recognized it. Secure? And what about me? The one who paid to fix the roof, who took you to the hospital in the middle of the night, who covered most of the bills? Do I not deserve to feel secure too? She tried to speak again, but my father entered from the next room, holding a mug of coffee, looking as if I were overreacting to something trivial. Zara, don't make such a fuss. You're doing fine. Your sister still needs help. I laughed, dry, bitter. She's 30, Dad. She switches jobs every few months, can't pay her own phone bill. But she's the one who gets everything, while the daughter who sacrificed 10 years doesn't even get a mention. So where's the fairness? My mother stepped closer, gently placing her hand on mine like she always did when trying to calm me. Don't overthink it, Zara. We just thought you were strong. that you didn't need anything." I pulled my hand away. My gaze was colder than ever. Being strong doesn't mean I don't need love. And just because I've always stood firm doesn't mean I haven't been hurt. Silence fell. I placed the will on the table like setting down a verdict. "Thank you for showing me where I really stand in this family." I walked to the door. No one called after me, no apologies, no attempt to stop me. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel broken. I felt light. 2 weeks passed. No calls, no messages. I told myself if they had any conscience left, they'd reach out. Instead, I got a text from Dad. "Zara, this month's mortgage is due. Please transfer soon." I stared at the screen in disbelief. No mention of what happened. No concern. Just a command, like I was their personal ATM. I typed slowly, each word precise. Didn't Mia inherit the house? Let her handle it. 10 minutes of silence. Then a message from Mom. "Zara, please don't do this. We need to talk." But I didn't respond. I was done listening. 3 days later, Mia showed up at my door, clutching a mess of documents, her voice frantic. "I just need 5 minutes. I don't understand the bank's terms. I don't know what to say to them." I crossed my arms, blocking the doorway. "You here for money?" "No, not money," she stammered. I didn't expect things to spiral like this." I looked at her, calm. "Then why did you smile when signing the will? You gladly accepted everything, but now panic because you don't know how to manage it?" Mia said nothing, head bowed. I didn't yell. I just said what needed to be said. "This is the lesson you need. No one grows when someone is always there to catch them." Then I turned and walked away, leaving her alone, finally forced to face the consequences of her dependence. It wasn't cruelty. It was justice. I thought that once I left, once I refused to help, my family would wake up. That without someone to cushion every fall, they'd be forced to adjust. But I was wrong. They didn't change. They panicked. Just weeks after I stopped covering the bills and removed my name from the joint account, the chaos began. The first message from Mom arrived near midnight. "Zara, the Wi-Fi's not working. Mia doesn't know the password." Then the landline was cut off. An electricity bill returned for non-payment. I read each message like reading a list of consequences I used to silently prevent. Each line was a reminder of the invisible role I once played, the one that kept the whole machine running while I remained invisible. Now that I had stepped away, every screw started to come loose. Texts from Mia started sweet. "Sis, I don't know how to handle the bank paperwork." Then turned sour. "You're so selfish. Our family's falling apart and you're just watching." She called it family. The same family that wrote me out of the will. The same people who let me walk away without a word. Then one day I got a message from Lorraine, our elderly neighbor. "Zara, your mom asked if I know anyone looking to buy a house. I think they're struggling now." I thanked her and hung up. I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I just sat quietly by my window, bathed in the golden light of afternoon, and realized, for the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to go back. Soon after, worse news arrived like a wave, a foreclosure warning from the bank. One morning, Mia stood at my door again, eyes filled with panic, hands shaking as she held out a document. "They say the house will be taken in 10 days if we don't pay this. I have no one else to turn to." I didn't invite her in. I stood in the doorway, looking at her, really seeing her for the first time. Not the irresponsible sister, but an adult finally facing consequences. "So what are you going to do?" I asked. "I don't know," she whispered. "I thought everything would be okay, that you'd, like always, Save us. I shook my head. Calm. Firm. That's the problem, Mia. You always thought that. And that's what's wrong. She cried. But I didn't move. I'd shed enough tears for all of us already. Weeks later, I ran into Ben, an old friend turned realtor, at a small art show in town. We were chatting about a photo project when he suddenly asked, "Zara, isn't your parents' house on Vine Street? Looks like it's up for urgent sale. Old place, high foreclosure risk." I nodded, light as air. "Yeah, they're not doing well, but I am." Ben hesitated, maybe about to ask more, but stopped himself. I knew, once, I would have rushed to help, to fix. But I wasn't that person anymore. I returned to my life, teaching photography, learning video editing, blogging about independence and letting go. One rainy afternoon, while editing photos at my favorite cafe, I got a real estate alert. Price dropped by $30,000 on 218 Elm Street. Owner seeks urgent sale. I looked at the photo. Dark roof, rotting fence, peeling windows. Once, I kept that house standing. Now, it reflected the truth. Abandoned, decaying, and without anyone left who knew how to care for it. I didn't feel smug. I just felt at peace. And that, more than anything, was the real victory. After everything that had happened, I thought I'd feel relief. But I didn't. At first, what I felt wasn't victory, but emptiness. A heavy silence settled over my mornings, over every cup of tea I brewed in my little kitchen. No more ringing phones, no more bill alerts, no one needing me. And suddenly, I had no idea how to start again. I had lived my life by duty, as the eldest daughter, the responsible one, the fixer, the selfless provider. Years of that erased my memory of how to live for me. But in that silence, I slowly began to hear my own voice, a voice that had always been drowned out by sighs, complaints, and the ever-present, "Can you help with this, Zara?" I started with the smallest things. I bought myself the chocolate cake I used to skip because that money should go to bills. I signed up for an advanced photography class, then a video editing course, something I had always dreamed of but never allowed myself. I began writing again, not to explain, not to defend, but to tell the stories I had buried, the feeling of being invisible, like a name erased from a page titled Last Will and Testament. One day, I received an invitation to host my first photo exhibit at the same cozy cafe where I used to sit alone on rainy afternoons. The photos I chose weren't flashy or technically perfect. They were simple, quiet moments. Sunlight through leaves, an elderly woman's hands holding a warm mug, an empty bench in the park. They were me, someone who had once been unseen, now learning how to be present. After the exhibit, a middle-aged woman approached me, shook my hand. "I don't know why, but your photos, they feel like they're speaking for people who've never had the courage to speak." I smiled, because I understood. I had spent years playing the role of the good daughter, hoping my kindness would eventually be recognized. But I realized kindness is not a ticket others get to punch for unlimited access. I wasn't born to be used. I wasn't built to be a life raft for people who refuse to learn how to swim. I learned to say no without guilt, to set boundaries, to understand that silence isn't always noble. Sometimes it's just another chain. One winter morning, I walked around Liberty Lake with my new camera. The water was still, the trees bare, the sky gray but not sad. When I saw a little boy running ahead of his mother who called out behind him, I lifted my lens and captured it. And in that moment, I understood. Some things are not meant to be held on to because they were never truly yours. Family used to be something I thought I could never lose. but now I know. Family isn't a chain. It's a choice. And I chose to walk away, not out of revenge, but in pursuit of life. I thought that after I walked out of their lives, they'd leave me in peace. That silence would be the end, each of us moving on with respect and distance. But I overestimated the self-awareness of people who had grown too comfortable living off someone else's sacrifices. By the third week after I refused to help, Olivia, a close coworker at the art center, messaged me. "Zara, are you on Facebook? You need to check your mom's page. She's posting some unbelievable stuff." I opened my phone and typed Denise Callahan, a name I once associated with warmth. Her timeline was filled with emotional posts, flower photos, and quotes about forgiveness and sacrifice. But then I saw it. A post with a photo of the old house and the caption, "It's heartbreaking when your own daughter turns her back on family, abandoning sick and aging parents in their time of need, after everything we sacrificed for her." It had over 80 shares. The comments below were waves of pity and blame. "Kids these days are so ungrateful. Stay strong, ma'am. That daughter should be ashamed." I didn't know whether to be angry or sad. Mostly, I just felt exhausted. Scrolling further, I found a post from Dad. "We thought Zara loved her family, but when we needed her most, she walked away without a word. Now the house is about to be seized, and she acts like nothing's happening." And then one from Mia, mocking and passive-aggressive. "Some people are kind only when they're on top, looking down. But when family asks them to step in and help, they choose silence. I guess that's what strength looks like now." I clenched my phone, not out of rage, but from the painful realization. When guilt no longer worked on me, they turned to public shaming. They didn't care to understand. They just wanted control over the narrative. But they forgot one thing. I wasn't silent anymore. That night, for the first time in years, I posted on Facebook. No background color, no emojis, just words, sharp as glass. My family is sharing a one-sided story. So to be fair, here's the truth from my side. I attached a photo of the will showing Mia as the sole heir. Screenshots of mortgage, utility, and insurance bills, all under my name. Then a message from Mom. "Zara, can you send $2,900 to save the house?" I ended with one line. My silence wasn't consent. I was just waiting for the right time to tell the truth. That time is now. 10 minutes later, the first comment popped up. "Zara, you really did all this? That's unbelievable." A friend from college added, "You're one of the kindest people I know. Don't let anyone make you doubt that." The post spread quickly. People who knew my family expressed shock. "I always thought Mia relied on others too much. Now I get it." Soon after, Mom deleted her post. Dad deactivated his account. Mia changed her profile picture to a black and white flower, her usual move when she loses control. I didn't post again. I didn't need to win. I just needed them to stop. And it seemed they finally understood. I wasn't someone they could manipulate anymore. One post, just one, ended the years I had been forced into silence. And from that moment, I knew I was writing the next chapter of my life. After all the noise, the confrontations, the texts, the tears, and the social media storm, what I felt wasn't emptiness, but a new kind of peace. Not the peace that comes from everyone agreeing, but the peace of release. I no longer felt guilty. I no longer wondered whether I had failed some unspoken duty. I had finally understood. If a relationship only exists when one side bears all the weight, that's not family. That's bondage. I began to rebuild my life. Mornings were no longer filled with dread over payment reminders or obligations I never signed up for. I woke up to sunlight slipping gently through the curtains, jazz softly playing as I brewed my coffee, and for the first time, I felt like I was truly living. I cleaned out my tiny apartment, deleted old reminders about family bills, canceled saved passwords, erased spreadsheets filled with due dates and account numbers. Each deletion felt like cutting one more invisible chain that had wrapped itself around me for years. I bought new plants, hung my own photos on the walls, no longer afraid someone would call it wasteful, because at last I was living for me, not to meet anyone else's expectations. One afternoon, while teaching photography to a group of high schoolers, I caught the spark in a girl's eyes as she saw her photo come to life. The way she clutched the camera, excitedly talking about composition and light, about what she wanted to say with the image, it moved me. I realized what I'd been missing all those years wasn't family, but the feeling of being seen. And now, I didn't need anyone to see me. I saw myself. That evening, I submitted my application to mentor in a support program for women breaking free from toxic family roles. Not because I was healed, but because I knew if someone out there ever felt the way I used to, they deserved someone walking beside them. I kept blogging about healing, about mornings without the weight of others' failures, about the freedom of saying no. People started sharing my posts. Quiet messages arrived. "Thank you. You said what I couldn't." A woman named Clara messaged me. "I'm 48 and still feel chained by the need to be a good daughter. Your post made me cry. This morning, I called into work and booked my first solo trip. I don't feel guilty for choosing me." I read her words in silence, my heart full. I used to think my story was a tragedy, abandoned by family, erased from their future. But now I knew. It wasn't a tragedy. It was an awakening. One crisp fall morning, I got a message from a realtor friend. "Zara, your parents' house just dropped another $30,000. Still no buyers. Looks like nothing's been fixed." I opened the listing. The roof peeling, the yard overgrown, the walls I once repainted now faded and cracked. I didn't feel sad. I just felt distant. That house used to symbolize duty, guilt, and heavy expectations. Now, it was just a house, no longer mine. I kept living. Weekend walks in the park, sunrise photography, writing stories I'd never had the time or energy to finish. I started traveling solo, capturing moments with my new camera, no longer trying to preserve what was falling apart, but to record what was beautiful. And I realized I didn't need forgiveness. I didn't need them back. I didn't need explanations. I only needed one thing: freedom. And finally, I had it by my own hands. For a long time, I lived as if I was just one step away. One apology, one glance of acknowledgement, one small gesture from my family, from feeling whole. I thought that if they just admitted my efforts, if they just once put me in the center instead of the sidelines, the pain would disappear. But the truth is, that moment never came. My mother once sent me a handwritten letter, the familiar handwriting shaky. In it, she spoke of sleepless nights, how my father wasn't as strong anymore, and ended with, "I don't know how much time we have left to fix things, but if you're willing, I'm still here." I didn't tear the letter, but I didn't reply either. I placed it in the drawer beside undeveloped photos, half-finished drafts, things that need time to be understood. I wasn't angry anymore, but I no longer hoped, because now I understood. I didn't need to be chosen to feel worthy. For much of my childhood and adult life, I believed love had to be confirmed, proven, reflected back at me. I cooked, I helped, I carried the weight. Not just because I loved my family, but because I wanted to be seen. I wanted to feel like I wasn't invisible. Now, I don't need that anymore. I chose myself. I chose to believe I was worthy of peace, even if no one else said so. I learned to love myself, without scorecards, without earning a gold star for being the good daughter, without being named in a single will. I realized worth isn't in someone else's eyes. It's in walking away from what drains you. It's in setting boundaries. It's in choosing peace over obligation. Every day now, I leave my apartment with a different spirit. I don't carry guilt. I don't lose sleep wondering if they resent me. I no longer live to be seen as good. I walk slowly, watching the trees shift with the season, capturing quiet moments with the camera I once thought was too indulgent. And I know I don't need anyone to stand behind me and say, "You did well." I already know I did. One afternoon, I held my second photo exhibit. This time, the theme was things that no longer need explaining. There was a photo of an empty bench in a pine forest, a half-closed door, a pair of shoes with no feet in them, and at the center, one of me, back turned, walking into a sunlit path. A stranger looked at the image and said, "She's not looking back." I smiled, because she finally knows where she's going. I don't need them to understand me. I don't need them to come back and say, "Zara, we were wrong." I just need myself not to look back. And now I've walked far enough to know I don't need them to feel whole. I've always been enough. I just believe it now. In life, what exhausts us most may not be our jobs or failures, but the constant effort to be seen by the people we call family. Zara's story is not just a personal journey. It's a mirror reflecting the silent sacrifices of millions who believe that if they're just good enough, long enough, they will finally be appreciated. But sometimes, that appreciation never comes. And the longer we wait, the more we abandon ourselves. Zara spent her youth carrying burdens that weren't hers. She thought love and loyalty would hold her family together. But the truth is, family cannot thrive without fairness and mutual respect. Her story challenges us with one powerful question. Are you living for yourself or just surviving to please those who never truly see you? Sometimes, the right choice is not to keep enduring, it's to let go. Not because you're weak, but because you deserve a life not ruled by guilt. Remember, loving yourself is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not betrayal. And if you ever have to choose between being the good child or being good to yourself, choose the latter. Because true peace doesn't come from others clapping for you. It comes when you stop punishing yourself. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever felt invisible, used, or like a name on someone else's list of expectations, know that you are not alone. And you have the right to walk away from what hurts you, even if it's called family. Comment below. Are you living too much for others? Have you ever learned to let something go? If Zara's story made you think, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more stories about life, awakening, and the journey toward healing.